I have 100 Gladrim champions, the best of the best when it comes to elven archers. We're going to see how well they do against different amounts of brutes, eventually solving in an 1,000 versus 1,000 battle, the biggest that Bannerlord offers. To start with, we have 50 orc brutes. These guys are pretty tough, especially when it comes to melee combat. However, they do not have shields, so as my Gladrin champions let loose with their arrows, oh my word, they start to fall. The blood effects in Bannerlord are on full display here, and it doesn't look like it's going to be much of a challenge for my elven warriors. They dispatched them pretty quickly. You could say that was somewhat of a victory, but it's not over yet. You see, we've got more challenges to come. Spawning back in with the same 100 Galadrin champions, we now have 100 brutes and 20 pikes. Now, pikes might seem deadly with their big sticks. However, on an open plain, they're a little bit like the brute soldiers. No shields and kind of just meat bags ready to take any sort of damage that's offered up to them. Positioning my guys in loose mode seems like the best option. I tried it in different testing and different formations. However, I feel like, especially if you put them in shield wall or closer formations, not everyone tends to get a shot. So to make them as deadly as possible, this is the way we're going. Of course, I've got to give a helping hand, but it doesn't look like my Galadrin champions really need them. Once again, the first 100 brutes are dispatched pretty easily. They do get to the front lines, but we've got some big hacky and slashy swords, so it's not exactly the worst for wear. The pikes, yeah, they don't even stand a chance. That wasn't going to go too well. But we're going to bring back the 100 brutes. We're going to bring 50 pikes to the battlefield and 10 swordsmen. Now, you might be wondering, what's the point of 10 swordsmen? Surely they're not going to do anything. But I wouldn't be so sure. You see, the biggest issue with the brutes and the pikes is not necessarily the numbers, it's the fact that they don't own any shields. The swordsmen, however, do, and they use them very, very effectively. You'll actually see that these 10 swordsmen probably do more than any of the brutes and the pikes put together, just because they're actually able to get to the front line. This amount of archers is good in any scenario, really, unless you're going up against full cavalry forces, but even then, having enough archers can dispatch pretty much any enemy that comes for them. As the battle commences, the brutes are taken care of pretty easily, as you'd expect. But the swordsmen are starting to get a little bit closer. Even the pikes are making some progress just because my Galadrin champions have been distracted for some time now. My guys are actually having to move back here. They seem to be a little bit worried about what's coming over that hill. Despite this, though, there are enough of them to dispatch the swordsmen. They managed to make it to the front line, but then they are hacked down in melee. Because whilst we do have bows, we're not too shabby when it comes to the swords either. Pikes make it to the front line, and the first Galadrin champion is killed. That is one of a few that we're about to see. But still, it's not enough. So what can do it? Well, I guess let's bring in 200 berserkers, 100 pikemen, and 50 swords. Surely that's gonna be enough. As they march towards the battlefield, the Galadrin champions are starting to wonder. How many is too many? The bristling muscles on the back of the enemy brutes is a terrifying sight to see for any. I mean, not for my bowmen, because they know they can deal with them pretty well. I try and do a few pot shots, but it's not until they get closer that the rest of my guys can actually join in with me. We start off in the usual way, firing at the head and the soft bodies of the squishy brutes. They start falling one by one, and soon they are dispatched. Or are they? They're getting pretty close there, guys. Oh god. Yep, even the brutes start to make it to the front line. 200 berserkers are just too much. These are also just level 1. The Galadrin champions are trying their best, but they can't fight back. They're now getting surrounded by the swordsmen and the pikes from the left-hand side, and only a few are there to stand. They have brought out their two-handed swords, and they're doing what they can, but they are being pushed back and back and back as they're being surrounded by the Isengard forces. Is this the end? Is this gonna be too much? It looks like it has been. Oh well. I guess that was just too much to handle. But it is not over yet. 1,000 Galadrin champions versus 1,000 forces of bad and evil. The Isengard laddies are on their way, but it's time to find a good placement. I decide to head up onto this hill. I think it's probably the best place to put my guys. That river is going to help a lot. Not just because they're going to be fighting up a hill on the other side, but also because they're going to be making their way through the water, which, if anyone doesn't know in the Mount and Blade game, slows down your enemies a lot. So if I'm going to stand a chance here, that's what I've got to do. Positioning my guys up once again in loose formation, giving them the best chance to get the most amount of kills on the enemy. I'm sure that's going to help us to no end during this battle. Where are they? Oh god. They're coming over the hill now. They're coming over the hill in sheer forces. Now, don't get me wrong, there are definitely 1,000 on each side here. However, because of Bannerlord, it hasn't spawned everybody in at once, so there will be reinforcement waves. The issue is, my Gladrian champions are about to spawn in halfway into behind the enemy lines, which doesn't end up too well for either side. But letting loose, you can see by the kill feed, it is an absolute slaughter, especially as they're slowed down going through that river there. These guys at the front just don't really stand a chance. Unless you have a shield against archers, you're not really going to get very far. Some of them do make it to the front line. They have a bit of hacking and slashing. You can see some of my guys have spawned in there. I've lost a couple guys to the big swords of the Urukai berserkers. However, it's when the swordsman and the pikemen come where the real challenge starts. I decide, look, we've got confidence here. We know what we're doing. Let's head forward. And the hail of arrows is coming from everywhere. An absolute brutal affair. We've got some guys up there with the swords doing the melee fighting. And it seems to be going pretty well, especially with that reinforcement of, well, rain, I think is probably the most accurate description of this hellfire. I, once again, get my sword out. I want to get in there. Close quarters combat. Show what I'm worth. I've been training my whole life for it, and they already died before I even get close to the front line. But it's not over yet. More reinforcements are coming in, and they are coming in waves. There is a lot of them. We've not even killed half this army. So, we take to the front lines. We are going to take the fight to the enemy. More arrows coming in. More Gladrian champions drawing their weapons, and a few of them dying at the front line. They're getting picked off by the big Urukai forces that are coming over the hill now. It seems like this guy, oh, he's going for the swipe, but he gets saved by the friends of the arrows. And my word, this is a big group of lads. I need to try and retreat a little bit here so I don't get killed, because they do a lot of damage when they hit. I think I actually hit my own guy there. He'll walk it off. That's fine. The dead bodies litter the battlefield. Blood, arrows, corpses of both Gladrian champions and Urukai are everywhere. However, it seems like we do have the upper hand here. They are now formed up. And when I say formed up, I mean a way that jelly is formed up in a massive blob. We have no formation left, but we do have a lot of gall, a lot of arrows, and a lot of swordsmen. Let's take it to the enemy, and the last few are being swiped up, and they are getting destroyed before the pikemen come in. We need to get a few pot shots there, because these guys are going to be a bit sticky. They do have the range advantage now. Now, many of my guys have lost arrows. You know, in normal Bannerlord, you can actually see the lack of arrows in an archer's quiver, but because this is a modded version of Bannerlord with modded troops, the arrows are always there. My guys have run out of ammo. It just doesn't look like it. But it seems like their proficiency in melee is actually going to get them through this. This has been an absolutely exhausting day of fighting. So, how good are Gladrian champions? Well, 100 of them can beat about 300 orcs. But when it comes to 1,000 versus 1,000, they're pretty much unstoppable. Is that a surprise to many people? No, probably not. But is it cool to watch? Yeah. I think it might just be.